Amazon với mức giá cực kỳ ưu đãi như đăng ký brand với USBTO, từ Helium 10, từ Triple Scout, Logistics và Warehouse. Xem hình thông tin chi tiết dưới phần mô tả nhé.
Today, we've got two great guests, one of which has sold tens of millions of dollars on Amazon, and the other has helped sellers get tens of millions of dollars reimbursed by Amazon. How cool is that? Pretty cool, I think. Are you a YouTube vlogger, blog writer, course creator, or other kind of influencer or educator? Maybe you just have a network of people interested in e-commerce. Did you know that you can earn commissions of 25% for life for everyone that you refer to Helium 10? We've got many partners earning hundreds, even thousands of dollars monthly in commission from Helium 10's partnership program. If you'd like to join our affiliate partner program, please go to h10.me/crush it and tell them you heard about it from the podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Serious Sellers Podcast by Helium 10. I am your host, Bradley Stunt, and this is the show that's a completely BS-free, unscripted, and unrehearsed, organic conversation about serious strategies for serious sellers of any level in the e-commerce world. And like we've done before, we have two for the price of one. We're going to have a couple guests on this episode, and the first one here is Fernando. Fernando, how's it going?
I'm good, Bradley. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Now, where are you located? Are you still in like the LA area, or where are you at?
Yeah, so right now, I actually am in LA for a few days, but I've been kind of bouncing around all this year between Colombia, Argentina.
Like digital nomad lifestyle, or you actually live somewhere else now, or what's going on?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, my wife and I are, I guess digital nomads. I don't know. We don't use that term. But yeah, we're kind of.
I don't use that term either, but you know, I think that's a standard phrase for it.
Yeah, no, you're right. I don't know. I feel like that's like the young thing to do when you're in your 20s. Sadly, I'm not in my 20s anymore. But yeah, we'll hop around. We'll get like an Airbnb usually for like 5 to 6 weeks, and then we'll change like Airbnb. So it's not like we're kind of going from hostel to hostel every 2 days. It's something a lot slower than that, I guess you would say.
Part of the reason you're able to do this now is you've been selling on Amazon for quite a while. When did you first get into the industry?
We got in back in 2014, actually. And so yeah, we jumped right into private label, and I've been selling there since.
You've done a lot of different things, in the industry, both selling on your own, and you, if I'm not mistaken, you've run like large communities for sellers and had courses and now I believe you work for an agency that helps sellers. What's your favorite aspect of it?
I would say it's like kind of a tie. I think the agency is amazing. For really getting to help other sellers. I mean, we've been very fortunate. We've done really well selling our own brands, but then I think helping other brand owners, like, kind of achieve either a monetary success or kind of like the revenue goals that they're shooting for, I think is really rewarding, because I think you get to work with cool founders, and then that is really inspiring. But yeah, I mean, also I love like creating brands and like launching products and all, I mean, the things that we're really good at. And so, I would say it's like a tie between those. Like one is a little bit more selfish, truthfully, and then I guess one is like kind of helping others, which is always really cool. And you have those success stories that are really meaningful naturally.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like it's one thing. It was fun growing like the Project X, coffin shelf and egg tray account, just because it was like, oh yeah, hey, I made that. But then when somebody comes up to you and says, hey, thanks to Project X, I started my own Amazon business and I made $1 million and changed my life. That's like just way more rewarding. I don't know if I'd feel differently if I actually was able to get money from the coffee. Like I've never gotten a cent. That's all Helium 10 money. But, maybe right. I wouldn't be as unselfish there. But anyways, yeah, the reward is amazing when it's like that. Now, speaking back to your selfish side, not selfish, but like when you were doing stuff on your own and with partners and running your own brands. Which year would you say was your peak year of sales? Like when was it?
I would say, honestly, maybe not in terms of revenue, but in terms of bottom line, it's this year, actually.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's surprising. Yeah, I think because we still own like 5 supplement brands. we're pretty heavy into supplements. And so I think where a lot of people are seeing some down years, I mean, we were good about continuously launching products. Naturally, we launched a lot towards the end of the year last year. And then so we've had a huge 2022. Thankfully, we're up.
Now you've exited some brands?
Correct. Yeah, we sold some brands in 2020 as well.
Well, 2020, before it was fashionable. Even
yeah, before it was like the cool thing to do, I guess. We were on the earlier side of the craziness.
Were those supplements as well?
No, those were mostly home and kitchen.
Okay. Now, what's different? Like you said, you've been selling since 2014 compared to now, and you found success before. I remember, I think you were like, you're part of like 8-figure seller way back in like 2018 even. And then you said, hey, now is it like even your most profitable year. So you obviously found success in the early days of Amazon. You found success in when it's supposedly harder, when there's more competition and, higher PPC costs and different things have to navigate. So what would you say is some of the things that you really have to shift how you, manage your brands or your clients' brands for that matter here at, now coming up to 2023, as opposed to the good old days, as some people call it?
Yeah, I love that. It's a great question. So I think, back in the day, like the good old days, you could be strong in certain areas and then weak in other areas. But overall, as long as you were launching a product, you would probably do well. Like, especially if it was like 2014, 2015 days. I think now the way that I see it is that, like, imagine you have like, I don't know, these knobs of like, and they're scored 1 to 10, for instance. And you have, let's say, your listing content, your product development, your advertising, your supply chain. And before, where you could have some of them be kind of like 5s and 6s, but like some like, and then a lot of them at 8 or 9s, 10s, you would be fine. You would have an Amazon business and you would do well. At this stage, I think you basically have to have everything like as an 8, 9, and 10, because if you're not dialed in the supply chain, for instance, your forecasting's off, your inventory gets restricted, you're getting killed in storage fees, your freights are too high. If you're not good at advertising, like you're inefficient in your spend and like your margin's already lower because Amazon's increasing their fees. And so I think it's about really figuring out which of those knobs can you really own, can your business partner own, do you need to like delegate to an employee or whatever. But I would say like that is like the fundamental difference is you can't be like having a 5 or 6 in one of those really crucial categories anymore. It's like you have to really figure out how you're going to divide and conquer.
All right, our next guest here that we have, let's go ahead and introduce him to the show, is Rob from Getita, a.k.a. the Money Man. Rob, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going good, Bradley. How you doing, man?
Pretty good, pretty good. Now, for those watching this on YouTube, he is not wearing his suit that he is famous for. But if you don't know Rob by name, but you've ever been to an Amazon conference, I guarantee you've seen him. He's the guy who wears head to toe, hat to suit, jacket, pants, everything made out of dollar bills. That's why they call him the Money Man. But Rob, when did you first get that suit?
Yeah, so I actually got that suit, let's see, it was a couple of prospers ago. So we'll say just about a year and a half ago. And actually, I bought it without anybody at Getita, and the CEO, the co-founders, not even knowing what I was going to do. It was my first actual live event with Getita in person. And I was just like, hey, we got to do something special. We got to show up. We got to get attention. Went up to their hotel room in the suit, but had all these extra accessories. We still hadn't figured out. We didn't even know it was called the Money Man at that point. And I'd ordered it actually everybody will ask me where I get the suit. I actually ordered it off Amazon. So it was actually ordered off Amazon, showed up to the hotel room in this suit, put together some accessories and some hat and everything to go with it. And I turned to Eitan, our CEO, and he kind of looks at me and he goes, wow, this is either going to be a train wreck or a amazing thing. So we get down the elevator as we're walking over to the Prosper show. I think I got stopped at least twice and asked to take pictures with me. And Eitan kind of goes, yeah, this is going to be awesome.
Nice.
So yeah, it was just about a year and a half ago that we started with the money suit.
Well, we have, that's something you and I share in common where we kind of go against the grain, as far as uniform, like I'm the only one wearing like Helium 10 jerseys and baseball hats and everything when I'm out there. Yeah. Not the typical evangelist strategy. But hey, we're people remember it. You know, people might not remember my name, but they're, oh, that's the hat guy or that's the jersey guy, and they might not remember Rob, but they remember the money suit. So, anyways, you know, Getita, I think a lot of people have been knowing about Getita for years, and they see it in our Seller Solutions hub. But you know, you weren't around at the founding of Getita, but you know, I'm sure you know the backstory. Like, how did they come about deciding that this was kind of a need in the industry? Because I think since you guys have come around, now all of a sudden there's everybody and their brother and sister trying to, like, you know, piggyback off of your success. But you guys were kind of like the first in the game to really, you know, put your foot forward with this. But how did that even come about?
Yeah, and I'm going to just kind of paraphrase the story. So yeah, Getita's been around for a little over 8 years. Yoni and Max are actually the co-founders, and they were basically sellers. So they were just selling in the garment sort of category, and they just kept having all these returns and all these issues, and you know, they kept kind of going, okay, well, you know, according to Amazon's terms of service, we can do this, we can get a refund for this, refund for that. So they, you know, just kind of kept seeing that need to hire people to go get these refunds. And Max, you know, basically has this dev type background and really understands, you know, the developer type side of the house. And he's like, man, I think I could, you know, write some software. Now, there is rules around this, just to clarify this before I go too much further. You know, Amazon does have rules on, you can have software go look for some of these issues. And that's what obviously, you know, Max wrote was to go look at some of these issues, right? Go find these issues, pull it into, let's just call it a bucket, right? It's not really a bucket, but into a database. And then that way the different people could, you know, pull out of there and go talk to Amazon, fill out the paperwork, try to get refunds for them. It was all originally done for just in-house issues. So they originally had an in-house, you know, client, or basically people looking for the issues that they were having. Had the pleasure of this year actually being out at our corporate headquarters, and I was having dinner with Yoni and his family, and he goes, right across the street from this little pizza shop. He's all, that's where Getita started. He's all, there's a little room in the back of this building, and he goes, and that's where we kind of.
Where was this?
This was in Teaneck, New Jersey.
Okay.
And I don't know the exact street, but he took me out to
in New Jersey. That's what I was looking for. Okay.
Yeah. And literally he's pointing at this almost like a FedEx office, and he goes, and behind there is a little tiny shop, basically, and that's where they kind of put some of the people to kind of get started. And that's where Getita kind of started, was in this little tiny shop. And again, it was just a piece of software that was basically going out looking for issues, but because of Amazon's terms of service, you have to manually submit those, meaning somebody has to look at them, make sure the issue hasn't been submitted already, and then they submit it to get it. Now, people started finding out that Yoni and Eitan were doing this. I'm sorry, that Yoni and Max were doing this. And basically we're saying, hey, would you help me do it? Would you help me get refunds? And so they started saying, okay, we'll do it for a small fee. We'll do it for a fee, and start, you know, basically bringing on these people that they knew and kind of that were close to them. And that just started building up over time, you know, and it started just getting to a point where it became its own thing. So, you know, Getita's been around a very long time, which actually benefits our customers. You know, the fact is, we've seen a lot of different issues that most refund companies don't see. Because we've been around, we know where we can get your refunds and how deep we can go, what will work, what won't work. When I came on board, there was around maybe 40, 50 employees about a year and a half ago. And now we're over 140 employees. So, and just to give you kind of a little extra on that, Bradley, of those, let's say 140, around 80 of them only handle filing reimbursements for customers. So it takes a pretty substantial team to handle that amount of refunds that we're doing every single day for the amount of customers we have. So it's been.
And then to kind of just fast forward this story to the end, and then we'll go in and fill in the blanks. But
sure,
just to wow people, off the top of your head, some of your customers, like, what is the most you have gotten them, like, in 1 month, where you just had a monster customer and they hadn't even been doing this on their own? So, like, I'm sure it's always usually the first month that it happens. But, like, what's the biggest month payday that you have found that Amazon owed a specific seller?
Yeah, I'm not going to go to an exact amount, but I'm going to give you enough that you could probably figure it out. How about that? So we do have a few sellers in that $500 million category. And
as far as their gross sales.
Yes, their gross sales.
Okay.
And on average, and this is actually true for all clients of Getita, on average, we recover 1 to 3% of your annual FBA sales every single year. So you
every
figure
single year. So
every single year. So even if we're looking at $500 million seller at 1%, I mean that you're talking a pretty substantial amount of money every single year. And then start breaking that down by month. It starts getting big. Now, the other thing, and Bradley, you probably, I don't know if you know this 100% or not, but when customers sign up, Amazon allows us to go back 18 months and look for past issues. So you're right. That first, let's call it 3 months, usually you see a substantial amount of money come in because we were able to go back that 18 months and actually get you more money back from past issues. And then, of course, going forward, like I said, it's 1 to 3% annually every single year that we would get back in FBA reimbursements.
All right, now back to Fernando. Well, let's just talk about specific strategies now. For 2023, as we know, like for example, somebody might say, "Oh, I'm still gonna do the search, find, buy method or something." Like, nope, that's went out of TOS, a year or two ago. I'm gonna have my friends and family leave reviews. Nope, can't do that anymore. But I sometimes no matter how big a seller, you're kind of limited with how many strategies or unique things that you're doing because it's still for your own brands. But when you're an agency or a consultant, like sometimes I feel like you come up with way more. You get confronted with way more obstacles and way more use cases. So I really love talking to people who work with a variety of sellers because I think you guys are exposed to more things. So like what are some of the things, roadblocks? Let's just talk about that. The big failures. Like what are some like terrible things that have happened to your brands or your clients' brands that you've had to kind of like get them out of the gutter on?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say the first one that comes to my mind is just doing an undifferentiated product. And so sometimes we'll see a product coming in from a client. It's like the exact same thing as everybody else. And, it fits in line with their brand and it's the right type of product. But when we look at it, we're like, hey, like this is just not going to do well. You're going against people with tens of thousands of reviews. This isn't really differentiated. And so like we can market it and we can do our best, but truthfully, like it's just not going to be successful because there's no reason for the customer to choose this one over the other 5 that have been there longer. Right. And so I think that's like the first mistake that we see. I think the second that we see is like, let's say we're doing an audit for a brand and we're looking at their main image and it's just so busy. And there's like, you can't really tell like what the product is used for, or they're just not displaying it in the right way that it, really optimizes for click-through rate. And so I think we're constantly thinking about that. We're leveraging a lot of like the polling software out there, like IntelliV or Sellermetrics, PickFu, any of those. And leveraging that to make kind of more data-driven decisions with our design team. I think that's huge that a lot of people don't really spend enough time on. And especially if you're the entrepreneur, like moving that earlier into your product development process. So instead of like, by the time that you spend all this time, like I think what we used to do is that we'd come up with a product, basically get it ready, like to be shipped, and then start designing the main image. But instead, now, like what we're doing, even with our own products, is that we're shifting that process of like the polling campaigns or testing it against the main images of your competitors way earlier, because it could be that you realize like, hey, I'm not getting like 50% of the votes or 60% of the votes, and that's my bare minimum. And so you might cut a product because it's not getting that votes before you go through the pricing and like the back and forth of samples and all of that kind of stuff. So you can save a lot of time by using those types of like kind of online focus groups is kind of how we think about it. I think other big mistakes is just going too wide, not really having a customer anymore. Like I think in the past, you could just launch in any category. It's just going to work. But naturally, like to your point, like with all the TOS changes and it just being a lot more difficult to introduce products, then you need to really be a little bit more focused now, starting to like learn the off Amazon marketing, once you probably hit like, I would say like 3 to 5 million in annual revenue, is just my opinion. But I think those are some of the things that I would start that I see the most often.
Think back in the last 6 months, a very successful launch that you either did for your own brand, or one of your brands, partner's brand, client brand, whatever. And when I say successful, that's subjective. I don't know. Let's just say it's doing now like 30 to 50 units a day or something of sales. Have you had any launches like that in the last 6 months?
Yeah, a bunch. Yeah, we're good at launching. Okay. We know what we're doing. Yeah.
Perfect. I didn't know that, but I asked this. All right. So now think about that. Now,
sure.
Do you have one in mind?
Yeah.
In your head? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, was this a brand new brand and this is just a new thing, or was this like a product line extension? It's an existing brand and now you're launching a new product?
This one specifically was a new brand.
Okay. All right. So new brand. This is great. 2022, 2023. First of all, how did the brand owner decide on the product? Like what, did they see something trending on TikTok? Did they just use Black Box and Helium-10? Or were they just looking at bestsellers? How did they land on this product, if you can recall?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I know tangentially that they had sold their business, I think, last year. And then so I'd been working on this new idea for quite a while. Truthfully, I'm not sure if they probably use like a combination of like, X-ray, I would assume. And then just like, naturally once you've sold like a brand, you can kind of start over and you just more like hindsight's 2020, right? And so for instance, we were in home and kitchen, we were doing a lot of non-consumable products. So when we were looking at new product lines after we sold, we're like, okay, we're doing consumables. And so I think this founder kind of came in with the same idea, like I'm doing a consumable, I'm kind of switching categories because typically you have a non-compete anyways.
So when you first looked at this, if you can recall it, like what looked good in this market to you? Like did the competition suck, or was it fairly new, or their idea was kind of fresh, or like why did you get excited, if you did, about this launch?
I think it's a lot of those things that you already touched on. I think it was a differentiated offer. It was like a relatively new space. So the incumbents weren't that sophisticated and didn't have like that much of a head start. It's not like, I don't know, silicone gorilla gloves where you're going to just get like owned because there's no way of really differentiating those very well. And it's super saturated. They had great branding, I think, because they already had exited. They were able to invest funds into it. And it's kind of more environmentally friendly. So it's going where things are moving towards, you know what I mean? Like, it's good for the world. And so I think it has that kind of social component, which I think makes me feel good naturally, like as like, an agency owner, but then also it's just generally where things are moving towards, which is great as well.
Anh chị đang bán hàng trên Amazon. Skyrock cung cấp các dịch vụ dành cho các nhà bán hàng trên Amazon với mức giá cực kỳ ưu đãi như đăng ký brand với USBTO, từ Helium-10, từ cho dầu cao, logistics và warehouse. Xem hình thông tin chi tiết dưới phần mô tả nhé.
All right, now back to Rob. One question I had, was I think it's pretty, everybody knows that, hey, like if I'm a Helium-10 user, I should be using Refund Genie because it's free and it searches two of the most common ones, but which are lost and damaged. But of everything that you guys search for, which is more than that, which is why there is a space for Getita in the industry. What are the top 3 things that people are owed the most money for? I would assume that lost and or damage might be 1, if not 2 of the top 3, but obviously Helium-10 doesn't find that 3rd one because we only do 2. But what do you see out there?
Yeah, it kind of, you're 100% right. And we always recommend everybody using Refund Genie, especially if it's part of your, package that you're paying for already. Getita is an add-on to that Refund Genie capability and just goes deeper. So you are 100% right, Bradley. Lost, damaged, broken merchandise, those are all actually separate. So, and then after that, it kind of gets a little scattered. There is things like weight and measurement issues. And that is something that you have to actually do yourself. We provide it in our dashboard, your current weights and measurements, but it's up to the actual seller to go in and give us the correct weight and measurement issues that we can go file a refund for or a reimbursement for. And that is, so miscategorization is another one. So really, I guess what I'm trying to say, Bradley, just to answer your question directly, really kind of get scattered after those first two. And that's probably why Helium 10 kind of picks those, because those are the ones that are kind of the easiest to find. It is the ones that happen the most often. But realistically, the scenarios start going way deeper and a lot wider, and many of them kind of after those first two. So there isn't really a specific pinpoint one, but I always recommend looking at those weight and measurement issues.
For example, let's say a customer asks for a refund and then they return the product because Amazon was late on delivery. Like, let's say it was like, hey, you're going to get this in 2 days. It got there in 4. So the customer's like, all right, send this back. And then, now I don't know what happens to that inventory, but like, is there anything there that Amazon owes the seller, or that's just the cost of doing business?
Cost of doing business. Yeah. So I'll give you a similar scenario where you are owed a refund. So if Amazon FBA ships out an item to a customer, and let's say a customer gets on the Amazon chat and is able to somehow say, hey, I'm not happy with this, whatever the scenario is on a reason why. And let's say Amazon turns around and issues them a refund, and tells them, hey, you need to ship it back, or gives them the label. And let's say that customer just doesn't do it. They just don't ship it back. Yeah. After a fixed amount of time, if they haven't shipped that back, you're actually due a refund back. So even though
because you get debited the instant that they ask, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So if that item never came back, you're also due a refund. So, there's a scenario kind of similar to what you just said, but if for any reason they got a refund and they didn't ship your item back, you are due a refund for that not coming back. So
interesting.
That's a pretty good one.
All right. Now, another question I had was, I swear I saw like on LinkedIn or Facebook or something, there was some kind of memo that some sellers got about how much they can get reimbursed about something. And then according, to their interpretation of it, it might seem like, hey, we're only going to get fair market value now. Like, have you seen anything? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, I swear I saw this all over LinkedIn a couple weeks ago.
Yep. Yeah. So what you're referring to is, and we talk about this when we're at shows or we're talking to potential customers. So what happens is you actually get your money back based on the sale price. Now let's go over this a little bit more. Okay. The average sale price over the last, I can't remember if it's 30 days. I think it's 90 days, actually. The average of 90 days, which also means that if you put it on sale, let's say in the last 90 days, but then you also had it at full retail at some point, they're going to average those out. So whatever that average is what you're going to get your money back on, minus any fees like you sold the item. Okay. So if for any reason it got damaged, they're going to take an average for the last 90 days of what you've been selling it at, and then they're going to take out their fees as if you sold it. That's how they calculate what you're going to get back. So it's not necessarily a guessing game. It is an actual, I don't want to say science, but it is written how they calculated it. And that's basically how they come up with a number on what you're going to get.
All right, now back to Fernando. Now, what was your launch strategy? Like I'm sure you use Helium 10 to like know which keywords you needed to get sales on, but what was your strategy as far as trying to get to page 1 for those keywords in a world where we don't have 2-step URLs and things like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have a huge list that we're always able to leverage as well. That just kind of takes offers. That helps a ton. I think we also, I think a lot of people will go after this kind of spray and pray strategy, and they're just going after all of the keywords, which I just don't think that works as well anymore. And so we go kind of think of it as more like a sniper approach, or a very like focused approach. And so we'll identify the top 3 to 5 keywords that we're going to really focus on and make sure that we're going to convert for. And the way that we think about it is like, okay, first, what is the most relevancy, right? And so let's use like an example is like you could go after like immunity supplement, but that doesn't really tell you anything, right? Because an immunity supplement could be vitamin C, could be zinc, could be elderberry. There's all these different options. And then you still don't even know, is it a liquid? Are you looking for tablets? Are they looking for capsules? And so it's a really broad, like, non-relevant term, but I'm sure it's a ton of volume. And so instead, we're going to go after like vitamin C tablets with this many milligrams. And so it's hyper relevant to the product. And so one, we're really focused on relevancy. And then the other, like, I guess, barometer is like the volume. And so we're kind of like identifying that, again, like the top 3 or 5 keywords in terms of the highest relevancy and then the highest volume, and kind of weighing those two. And then we're going to really focus on those 3 to 5 keywords, and then basically make sure that we start ranking there. Obviously, we're leveraging a ton of PPC because like that's going to help like kind of feed the algorithm. But then again, it kind of comes back to the polling campaigns that we talked about earlier, is that when we're launching a product, we know that we're going to get like 50, 60% of the votes because we spent so much time like optimizing that main image, which I don't think enough people focus on today. And so those are a lot of the things that we're thinking about when we're introducing new products to the marketplace.
Yeah, guys, he mentioned PickFu earlier. You know, we've got PickFu right inside of Helium 10. It's called Helium 10 Audience. So go to PickFu or you know, just go into your Helium 10 dashboard and do audience. And it's like, you know, anybody can do split testing after the fact, you know, and sometimes you should, you know, Amazon even has a A/B testing, you know, feature, but it's so much better to have all this research done before. So you start from day one on the right foot. All right, let's go back to Rob now. Now, regardless if somebody's using, you know, Getita or Helium 10, Refund Genie, or whatever, what are some best practices you can tell sellers when it comes to this kind of thing? Like, maybe I'm not ready yet to use Getita, or I'm not ready to, you know, I don't have Helium 10, I can't use Refund Genie. But what's an easy win that you could say, like, where people, because I would say most sellers might not even realize that Amazon owes them money. But is there anything that you could say that's like preventative care, or just something I can even do on my own just to get started on this?
Yeah. So this entire process of doing refunds can be done on your own. Obviously, with Helium 10, they have Refund Genie that will kind of alert you to different possible issues that you can get refunds for, and you're going to have to submit the paperwork. So there is entire, actually, I think 3-hour, maybe even 4-hour webinar that myself, Yoni, and Lisa did that really almost steps you through the process of doing a refund for yourself. And in there, it's very long, very tedious. So there really isn't an easy way, Bradley. There's not really an easy way to do it. But it can be done. And don't get me wrong, it can definitely be done. What I usually suggest is, you know, kind of a separate suggestion is keep track of your weights and measurements. You know, when you're dealing with a factory, even if it's not coming to you directly, and it's coming in, it's going directly into the FBA warehouse, have your factory weigh it for you, have the factory get you the weights and the dimensions of the package that's going to ship out. So that way, when you do download that database of the weights and measurements, you'll know almost immediately if some of those are incorrect. And the reason I bring this up is weight and measurement issues, we can only go back 90 days to get your refund. So every item that's sold incorrectly for the last 90 days or shipped out at the wrong amount because they overweight it or something like that, we can get your refund back on that. Issues like you're referring to that Refund Genie helps you with are capable of going back 18 months. So Refund Genie will, you know, so it'll go back, you know, anything that has to do with, you know, broken merchandise, lost merchandise in the warehouse, it can go back 18 months to get that. And, but definitely that weight and measurement issues and miscategorization, if they put you in the wrong category and you're like getting charged, let's say 7%, it should be really like 5%. That discrepancy of that 2% for each product sold, which could be pretty hefty in Q4, as we know. That is something that you have to obviously bring to our attention to be able to go back and get that refund. But those are things that are due to you. Again, everything I'm describing, you can do, including what Refund Genie does. It can all be done manually by yourself. It just is a long process. Like I said, 4-hour webinar just on how to do, you know, how to do these things manually. Not sure it's necessarily worth your time. I'm sure you can make a lot more money watching Bradley, looking at ways to find new products, getting scores and results, and keep searching for better ways, right? So that's where I think you should focus your time.
So I think, guys, you know, there's actually a tool that we haven't mentioned today outside of Refund Genie that helps with one thing that Rob was talking about, Helium 10 alerts. You know, if you're sure that once you're sure that your dimensions are good, like when you first launch a product, immediately turn on alerts. Because if Amazon goes and remeasures it randomly, which trust me, guys, it happens. Like the coffin shelf, they did it, and I got an alert, but I never paid attention to it because I'm dumb. And then it was like 5 months later, I found out that I had been charged like about $5,000 more because, you know, they only changed a couple of inches, but it was like the difference between standard size and large standard size or whatever. And I was selling in those days hundreds and hundreds of coffin shelves. They literally had taken $5,000 that they shouldn't have. Now, just as Rob said, that one I could not get all $5,000 back because it was beyond, you know, the time limit. I could only get like $3,000 back. But if I had just followed the alert when it happened, I could have saved that, you know, that whole amount. So, I'm sure some people might wonder, like, all right, well, refund Genie, I know how that works, but Gatita, like, you know, how much am I, you know, is it a monthly fee or how do I pay you guys, or how do you guys even you know, connect to Seller Central to request this money and things like that?
Yeah. So we're not a monthly fee. We're basically a performance-based company, meaning that we only charge a small percentage when we recover money for you. If we spend 4 to 8 hours on an issue and Amazon says we're still not going to give you a refund back, you get charged nothing. Strictly performance-based. Only when we get you money back, we take a small percentage. The best way to go sign up and get a bonus kind of getting started free money is to go to Helium 10's partner page, click on the Gatita link. That'll take
That's
you to the
hub.helium10.com, by the way, guys. So hub.helium10.com, type in Gatita, and then what are they going to see when they see that?
Yeah, you're going to see us on the partner page with a link there to sign up, and it's going to have a special offer there for you. So as soon as you click on that link, it'll take you over to our landing page. You're going to have a special offer right there that you can click on. That's free money to get started. No long-term commitment, no contract. We're not locking you. We're not a cell phone company. We're here to help sellers, Amazon FBA sellers. So you're going to get this money up front for free to give us a try. If you're not happy after you try that after you go through that first amount of money, you're welcome to leave. Like I said, we're not locking you into a contract. So we'd like to see you stick around. And again, once you get past that first initial offer bonus that we give you, then we're going to charge a small fee to kind of keep going forward from there, which I'll just tell everybody is 25%. We're going to charge you 25%, again, only if we recover money. If a month goes by and we didn't get you any money, we charge you zero. Absolutely.
So then if you find $1,000 worth of stuff that Amazon owes me, they pay me $1,000, you're taking $250 and I pocket the $750 then.
Correct. That's correct. Okay. And like I said, if we spend 8 hours on that issue and they don't give you a dime, we're not going to charge you anything, Bradley.
All right, now back to Fernando. What else was part of your launch strategy? And then real quick, fast forward to the end. Like what's their daily unit sales after launch?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, last I checked, they were about 3 months in. They're hitting about 100 units a day. Awesome. And so yeah, it's great margins. And yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure we'll probably get it to like 200, 250 in the coming months, especially during Q4. And then, yeah, I mean, other things, we're always testing new strategies with influencers right now. So we're messing a lot with both Instagram and TikTok influencers right now. We're kind of doing seeding campaigns. We also do kind of like outreach campaigns to people that follow your competitor brands. And so, I don't know, let's say you have a coffee brand and then there's another like really similar, but like bigger coffee brand. Then we'll kind of, we'll test kind of engaging with the followers of that like incumbent brand and try to engage them, getting them to try the product. But yeah, there's a lot of like cool stuff that you can do outside of Amazon that's helping you build like that initial traction for the brand that we're starting to test out right now. And that's been pretty effective.
Okay. Now, it could be about this launch or it could be about anything at all, but we do something on this podcast, what we call the TST 30-second tip. So, you've been giving us good strategies, but what's something you can say in like 30 seconds to a minute or less that's like quick hitting and actionable and somewhat unique, like not some run of the mill strategy, but something unique that you think you guys are doing that can help sellers out there.
All right. So yeah, one other cool advertising thing that we've been messing around with is Amazon's new like search query performance report within brand analytics. And so you can use that to like kind of understand your your conversion rate's a lot better. But then also comparing that to the search term impression share advertising reports, which I don't think a lot of people currently use. And so basically, by comparing those two reports, you can start identifying which terms you're underinvested in and then overinvested in. And so I think like basically as of right now, there's a big shift, right, from everyone thinking about ACOS and then kind of moving to tacos, probably over the last like 3 or 4 years. But I think now that Amazon's constantly introducing more reporting, then I think it's going to become more and more necessary for you to be really sophisticated, I think, in terms of understanding the different conversion rates, how your competitors are converting, the average conversion for your category, and then just trying to figure out where you're strong and kind of adjusting your bidding strategy based on that.
Okay, excellent. All right, now I always ask how we can find you on the interwebs, but actually you guys are in our Seller Solutions Hub, right?
I am. Yeah, I'm excited to be there. Thanks, Ryan. Shout out to Ryan.
So hub.helium10.com, and then what should they type into the search engine there? And then also, how can they find you elsewhere as well?
Yeah. Our agency is called Marketplace Ops. So they can find us by searching there. But then you can always reach out at Fernando@marketplaceops.com or just on our website as well and find more info.
All right. Now, Rob, your turn now for our 30-second tip TST.
Yeah, so one of the tips I want to give Bradley with a quick 30 seconds is take a look at YouTube. I think YouTube is not being utilized as much for people that are selling on Amazon FBA. As we all know, everybody goes to Amazon to search for a product. And once they got that product, let's say if it comes to either a feature or maybe how to do something like replacing a battery on a remote, they're going to do a Google search. So I suggest to build out your brand or your product, go over to YouTube, start a YouTube channel, put some videos in there on how to replace a battery or more about your product or brand. And I think that's a really quick way to kind of extend out, promoting your product and brand that's not necessarily on Amazon.
Pretty cool. I like it. Now, you mentioned how to get in contact with Getita, but if people want to find you out there on the interwebs, what's the best way to find you out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on all social media platforms under either Rob Stanley or Robbie Stanley or OBBY. Just look it up. It's pretty easy. Or feel free to email me directly if you have any questions, rob@getita.com, GETIDA.com, rob@getita.com.
Anh chị đang bán hàng trên Amazon. Skyrock cung cấp các dịch vụ dành cho các nhà bán hàng trên Amazon với mức giá cực kỳ ưu đãi như đăng ký brand với USBTO, từ Talented, từ chuyên Scout, logistics và warehouse. Xem thêm thông tin chi tiết dưới phần mô tả nhé.